Hello there and welcome to a new video. In this video, we are going to talk a little bit about the discourse analysis. But first, we have to learn about some things that will let us understand this topic in an easier way. So, join us and enjoy the trip. Hello again. Well, if we want to learn and we want to understand what is the discourse analysis, first of all, we have to know what is a discourse. So, the discourse is a writing or an oral narrative that is expressed in solemn and massive acts, generally political or about a topic, about a thought, a vision, or about a conclusion. All these in order to move, inform, or persuade the public. Besides, if we want to have a discourse, we need some elements. Now, the elements that we need are the first one, the speaker, the second one, the text, and the third element that we need is the header. So everything that is written or spoken by the speaker is called text. So for example, when you're saying hello or how are you, that it's called a text. Also, if you're writing a paragraph or a sentence, those things are the text as well. And here is where the discourse analysis comes, because we can say that the discourse analysis is a process of understanding the text by paying attention to everything that gives meaning to this text. Okay, we have spoken about what is a discourse, but what is analysis? Well, is the identification and separation of fundamental elements in a text, which are generated in main ideas to criticize, argue, and describe them. Now, I will give you some steps that you need to follow to create a good analysis. Well, the first step is separate the paragraph. When it is a short text, we must separate it by paragraphs. And if the text is long, we can categorize by subtopics. Now, step number two, ask to the text. Well, in this part, we need to ask some questions that will allow us a deeper analysis. For example, what, how, when, who, how much, and where. Now for the step number three, we need identify the main ideas. Once the previous questions have been answered, it's necessary to identify the most important ideas, to question them with arguments or support them with other authors. Finally, the fourth step, develop your conclusions. In this step, the only thing that you have to do is develop your conclusions on the subject analyzed in a concrete way. Oh, and another thing, don't forget your sources. These sources must be in the APA format. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the oral discourse. It is a mode of discourse different from the written one, since it is handled orally. This way of discourse is more used because if you want to explain an idea with the oral discourse is easier. Now we are going to show you some points that you can use if you want to have a very good oral discourse. Well, the first tip that we are going to give you is planning the discourse. Well, the speech in this case should be planned in writing and then recited orally. The second tip is the understanding. You must understand what you are going to say, have coherence, and a good use of language. Finally, the third point, the confidence. It's very important to have a good security when you are going to talk, because sometimes nerves and not knowing what to say can affect in a general way the discourse.
Well, first of all, we have to know that when you do discourse analysis, you may focus on the purposes and effects of different types of language, cultural rules and conventions in communication, how values, beliefs, and assumptions are communicated, how language use relates to its social, political, and historical context. Discourse analysis is a common qualitative research method in many humanities and social science disciplines, including linguistics, sociology, anthropology, psychology, and cultural studies. Now, to do a discourse analysis, we could follow these steps. Step 1. Define the research question and select the context of analysis. To do discourse analysis, you begin with a clearly defined research question. Once you have developed your question, select a range of material that is appropriate to answer it. Discourse analysis is a method that can be applied both to large volumes of material and to smaller samples, depending on the aims and timescale of your research. Step 2. Gather information and theory on the context. Next, you must establish the social and historical context in which the material was produced and intended to be received. Gather factual details of when and where the content was created, who the author is, who published it, and whom it was disseminated to, as well as understanding the real-life context of the discourse. You can also conduct a literature review on the topic and construct a theoretical framework to guide your analysis. Step 3. Analyze the content for themes and patterns. This step involves closely examining various elements of material, such as words, sentences, paragraph, and overall structure, and relating them to attributes, themes, and patterns relevant to your research question. And for the final step, review your result and draw conclusions. Once you have assigned particular attributes to elements of material, reflect on your results to examine the function and meaning of the language used. Here, you will consider your analysis in relation to be broader context that you established earlier to draw conclusions that answer your research question.